All right, so we'll get started. We're going to talk about getting started with the cloud and how to build a proof of concept on Amazon Connect. This is a follow-up event to Nausheen's previous event on the different cloud roles, what kind of components people will work on, and also a small intro into cloud formation and how to build an S3 bucket from that.
Yep. Kaveri, are we good to get started? Oh, I think
Yeah, I'll just go through the.
no worries.
So Women Who Code's mission is to empower diverse women to excel in technology careers. And our vision is a tech industry where diverse women and historically excluded people thrive at every level. Now, the Women Code of Conduct. Women Who Code is an inclusive community, and this is your safe space. We will not tolerate harassment of any kind, either here or in any of our online communities. Everyone of every ethnicity, age, religion is welcome here, and this is your space. And you can read the full version on Women Who Code Code of Conduct, and it also has an incidents report. Our upcoming events are the member meet and greet wwcodecloud. It's on 12th of May. And there's also one on high performance computing, and the Women Who Code Dev Summit has a lot of events, lots of great speakers, and you should check it out. And if you'd like to stay connected, we have the Slack communities. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Do check out the website. That's where we have all of the events, job boards, and any descriptions that you like. So without further ado, I will introduce Nausheen to you. Nausheen is a cloud architect at PwC. She has worked on various domains. And a fun fact about Nausheen is that she mentors Indian students who would like to pursue a career in tech. And she's also a strong advocate for women in tech at PwC. Again, reintroducing the event. This is a proof of concept on Amazon Connect. It's a follow-up event to her first event on how to get started in the cloud. So without further ado, I will pass it on to you, Nausheen.
Thanks, Kaveri. And remind me, we do like Q&A, just like, if questions come up on the chat, right?
I'll be monitoring that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Let me share my screen. I feel like I need to use Zoom more because I'm so bad at it. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I appreciate everyone joining on a Thursday evening. Thanks, Kaveri, for the introduction. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Nausheen. I'm a cloud architect at PwC. I've spent over the last 7 years building a lot of the different solutions in the cloud space. Sorry, it's my dog. Sorry, yep. So just want to do a quick recap of what are we going to cover today, right? So being a cloud mentor, I get this question a lot of time. What is the best way to get started? Like, how did you get started? How did you start building your hands-on experience? Because it takes a while, right? It's not like it's not like you give one certification and then you're good to go. So it's always a combination of strategies that you take over a period of years to really understand how cloud platforms work. So while I was starting out, I definitely used certifications to get started. These days, certifications come with a lot more labs than when I got started in 2016. It was slightly different, but I think these days we're doing a better job of incorporating more labs and certifications, which is great. But outside of the certifications and labs, I also think like identifying smaller areas within the cloud where you can build like a proof of concept fairly fast, and you can or build a proof of concept in a few days kind of helps you just play around with the environment and learn more and more as you go. And this is something I still do today because there are so many services that keep getting launched. So I try to figure out what's the smallest proof of concept I can build with a service in order to understand more about the space. So I was introduced to the space of cloud contact centers, I think, right when COVID came around, because we were working with a lot of clients who had call center operations where, agents were still going into a physical location for customer support. There were not a lot of platforms that were being used that, gives you that voice over IP. So of course we had a huge demand from clients. Hey, can we set up can we set up a cloud contact center where we're truly able to do customer support and operations from the comfort of our homes? And that's when I got introduced to Amazon Connect. So Amazon Connect is the cloud contact center powered by AWS. So it is hosted on AWS. So this is also, I think it's an area where there is so much growth. There's such cool things you can build on Amazon Connect. It's also a very nice service if you're just getting started. It's small, it's concise. It gives you that confidence to build something new without overwhelming yourself. So this is an area that I point some of my mentees to who are getting started in the cloud space. Hey, look at this, cloud contact center it's a huge industry, and these skills are it's pretty good to learn as you build, and you're also building something you're familiar with. We've all called into call centers before. So actually calling into a call center and getting customer support and actually seeing how it's built, I think it's pretty cool. So a few advantages I just want to give, I will dive into the details and we'll build something together, but I just want to introduce the service. It's a fully managed service, so you're not dealing with virtual machines, servers. It's scalable. Amazon takes care of it at the back end. It has a huge omni-channel presence. It's one of their biggest advantages. When I say omni-channels, I'll showcase what some of that means, but it's just really that you build your experience once and you're able to take that experience across multiple channels. Like if my customer calls in on chat or voice, I can have that same experience across multi-channels. So it's very, very powerful in order to, promote your build once and maintain that experience across multiple channels. With Amazon Connect, my favorite feature is it's an open API platform. So it gives you flexibility, the amount of integrations that you can build with this platform is endless, which is why I think the amount of passion projects you can have on this project is endless. And I'll show you a few ideas, but it's an open API platform. You can integrate any other AWS service and view and incorporate it within your cloud contact center. The most common integration we see with Amazon Connect is Lex. We're all building a lot of Convo AI interfaces, and that's primarily built on Lex, and that's the most popular integration with Amazon Connect. Ease to use. So I think this is very powerful, right? The contact center operations have been made very easy for managers and agents both. It's very easy for agents to log in and service customers, but it's also very easy for the managers who manage the platform to keep their call center updated. So there's a lot of, these are some of the advantages that I think we're going to cover in today's session, which is why I wanted to call it out. What we're going to build together today is, and I'm going to walk through some of the builds, some of them we can real-time build as well. Is first, I'm going to start with a very basic contact center, and I've listed down the steps that we're going to do. We're going to create a sample IVR. We've all called into IVR systems before, and they're like, oh, welcome to the contact center service. Press 1 to do password reset. Press 2 to talk to an agent. So that's what we call a typical DTMF menu. So I'll show you how to create an IVR with a DTMF menu. But I think what's cool is you can see how you can easily take that IVR that you created with the DTMF menu, and we're all moving away from DTMF, right? Like now the call centers are getting very smart. You call in, they're able to almost talk to you, which is what they call natural language processing. They're able to talk to you in a super conversational way using these Convo AI interfaces. So we'll see the difference between DTMF menu and how we can do the exact same functionality building a Convo AI interface. And then we'll make some calls into the call center that we build, and we'll see how the whole thing works. So this is for, I don't know, maybe we take a quick pause here, Kaveri. I just want to gauge from the audience if people are familiar with AWS and they've been in the AWS console at all. If you can get a quick pulse check on chat.
Yeah, sure.
maybe you want to do thumbs up if y'all have used it before.
If you guys have that raise hand feature, you could use that and we'll be able to see.
Yep. Okay. I'm not seeing any raise. Okay, sounds good. So this is the Connect console that this is an AWS console for everyone who's not familiar and hasn't looked at it before, but this is in specifically Amazon Connect. Give me a sec. I always have trouble moving this. Okay. So I already have an instance created. It's super simple to create an instance, so I'm not going to walk through the details of that. But once I have an instance created and you create this access URL, this is pretty much the landing page of Amazon Connect. And as you can see, there's a bunch of functionality you can do to really build a call center in this platform. So going back to the first thing that you do, right? Every time anyone calls into a call center, the first thing that we're building is an IVR flow. So I, as a customer, I'm taking my phone and I'm calling a phone number. What is my experience on this particular phone number? And that is what we call a contact flow. So if I go in here and I'm going to create a new flow. So I'm going to create a flow and I already have one pre-created here. So I'm going to show you. But this is the console of the flow. And as you can see, it's very UI friendly. It's plug and play. You can plug in a few instances to build your flow. So the first part is it always starts with an entry point. As any good application system, we would want to enable logging behavior. And how I did that is you just go within the set block and you can drag the set logging behavior right here. So there's functionality for each of these, enable, disable, so you can click into it. The fun thing with Amazon Connect also is you can drag and drop or play with voice. So you can select who you want as your voice platform. Like, when you call in, what do you want like the IVR's voice to be? Some of these, there are a lot of options. So you can listen into it and it'll give you an example of how your IVR is going to sound. And again, all of this has been dragged and dropped. So once I set my voice, I set my logging, then I can say, okay, the first thing that I want when someone logs in is I want to play some sort of welcome message, right? Like, hey, welcome to whatever my call center might be. And this is, you just saw me drag this play prompt box from here. So if you see, this is already here. First thing I'm saying, welcome to a Connect POC. What can I help you with? So it's just my welcome message, and this is text to speech, right? So whatever text I write here is going to be converted into speech. A lot of organizations we see, like when you call in, they play like a pre-recorded message. So you could also play a pre-recorded message that you've stored in like an object database within AWS. Or you can play something from their Amazon's prompt library as well. So a lot of options to customize what you want to do as a welcome message. Once I have my welcome message, right, the next thing I'm looking to do is I'm looking to get something from the customer. Like I'm trying to understand why are they calling in. That's when I drag this get customer input block, right? So that's my next logical flow. And here where I'm saying is, okay, if you want flight status, press 1. For booking a new flight, press 2. For canceling a flight, press 3. Again, simple DTMF menu that we've been all aware with, or we've all used in the past. So if you see, it gives you a DTMF configuration of how many options you want to present to the customer. So in my case, there's only 3 options and they're going to, so when they press 1, whether they press 2, whether they press 3, I put another play prompt that says, okay, like, because I don't want to handle anything in my IVR. I want to transfer all my calls to an agent. I'm like, let my agents deal with it. So then I play another prompt. So no matter what they press here, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to tell them, okay, we're going to put you in a queue for finding out maybe we change, so I can change this, right? We're putting in you in a queue to help you with your next steps. Whatever we want to call it. Then I save that. And as you can see, is like you have to join these boxes, right? If someone presses 1 and you want to send them somewhere else, you have that flexibility to design your call branching as you may. If someone presses 2, you want to send them to one particular agent, you can do that. In my case, I'm just directing everyone to sort of like, I tell them, okay, thanks for your input. We are going to put you in a queue to help you with your next steps. After that, if you think about it, right, all contact centers operate with a queue concept, right? If I'm an agent, there's a queue of customers that might be waiting to get serviced. So everyone is sitting in some sort of a queue, and from that queue, they're going to be led into different agents. So in this case, after I've gotten the customer input, the next logical thing for me would be to put someone in a queue. Okay, so now you pressed 1, that means you're going to go into my basic queue where I'm going to have, assign you to a particular agent. And that's how like it's very logical in terms of, when you start building these out, it's like a step-by-step process. Like, what is your branching strategy? And once you have your branching, where do these customers end up in what queue? So I set my queue, I say, hey, all of y'all are going into the basic queue. And then I transfer them to the queue. And once I transfer them to the queue, I'm saying I put a disconnect block here that, okay, this is all the functionality I need. Once I put a disconnect block here, that means they're sitting in the queue and they're going to wait for an agent to be connected. So this is a very plug and play way of building contact flows. And this is purely contained in the Connect environment. We're not doing integrations out to any other AWS service. So once we have that set up, the next natural way is, okay, we have a user who called in, they're sitting in a queue. Now, how do we get that user who's sitting in a queue to an agent? So that's what we call as routing profiles. So I create a routing profile, and here I say that what on this routing profile, my agents are allowed to take calls on this basic queue. So now we have the flow defined, we have the queue defined, and we can tell agents that, okay, you're taking calls on this basic queue. So we have this set up. I think we can go ahead and I want to show you the quick test. So on the Connect dashboard, you also have the ability to test chat. But in our case, we're gonna test a call flow, right? And the only way to test a call flow is to call in. So the next thing is you're going to ask me, how do we claim a phone number, right? Like, how can we test this whole thing? So you can very easily come into this console. You can select like based on your country, you can select a toll-free number. And then you can just say, this is my toll-free number give it a quick description. Now you have to connect your phone number to a flow. So when the person calls that phone number, the flow that's connected to that phone number is automatically kicked off. So this is the flow that I was walking you all through before, the test use case 1 DTMF. So we're going to say, okay, this phone number is linked to this flow. And as you can see, I have one phone number that's allocated to me that I can call in and start testing. So now I'm just going to quickly, I want to show you all how easy it was to build that one flow. And I want to just quickly call into this phone number, do a quick test to see that our DTMF menu worked out. Calling in.
Welcome to the Connect POC. What can I help you with? Press 1 for flight status, 2 for booking a new flight, or 3 for canceling a flight.
So I pressed 1.
We're putting you in a queue for finding out flight status. Thank you for calling. Your call is very important to us.
So now I, as a customer, am I sitting in a queue, right? Now, how does an agent get to me? So now agents in Amazon Connect have a dashboard, and this is the test agent dashboard. So that's a call coming in for me. as an agent. So basically I'm talking to myself right now, but
You are on hold.
this is what, when a customer calls in, is what agents get to see. And like, there's multiple things that they can do. They can have like typical functionality you see in a call center. They can make outbound calls. They can send it to another agent that they know, things like that. But it's a super easy interface for agents that you're able to take a call from this particular interface on your laptop. So that was the whole flow working. We built that pretty fast, and you saw how I called into the phone number and the agent was able to take the call. Now I want to do the same thing, but I want to showcase a chat interface. And when we do chat interface, I want to showcase how, like, we can integrate with something like Amazon Lex within Connect as well, and build this flow pretty easily. So now that we have our DTMF menu flow going, we're going to build one with Lex. So we're going to integrate a service like Amazon Lex, which allows you to build Convo AI interfaces. So now same flow, you're going to see the same flow that we did earlier, right? We set our logging behavior, because if something goes wrong in my call flows, I want to know where the gaps are so I can go back and look at the gaps. I set voice. Okay, this is what the voice that customers are going to listen to when they come in. Now, compared to the old one, I'll say the same thing, right? Welcome to the Connect POC. What can I help you with? Same play prompt box. Then when I come here, if you remember the last time in get customer input, I had sort of a DTMF menu. I said, press 1 for flight status, press 2 for booking a new flight. Now I'm saying, in a few words, tell me how I can help you. You can say things like check flight status, cancel flight, or something else. So I'm making it more conversational, trying to have a conversation with the customer. And when you scroll down, instead of like linking a DTMF menu, I link a Lex bot to it. So I'm relying on the Lex bot to help me with this building this conversation with the customer. So now, how do we build this Lex bot, right? So when you go to Lex, there is, again, you can get started with creating a dev bot. And in my case, we're going to link it with one particular bot that we already created called this airline bot. Okay. So I go ahead, this is the bot that we have within Lex. And again, we can also create this right now, so we can do it together and you guys will see it. So I'm going to start with a new clean bot, and I'm going to call it Women Who Code Test. This is going to be our test bot. I'm going to use an existing IAM role. So for everyone who's not familiar in the AWS environment, for any service to operate, you create a role and you give it permissions, which is why I think this service is, again, very good to get started, because IAM is one of the pillars of AWS. And if you start creating your roles, playing around with it, you'll understand how IAM comes into play with every single service that you touch within the AWS environment. So I'm going to select a pre-existing role. Say no here. And these are more advanced settings, but to start off, you just need to provide a bot name. I'm going to start off with a blank bot, okay? And then I'm going to go next. I'm going to say my dominant language is in English. Again, here I can select who I want as my voice partner. Here you can play the prompts.
Hello, my name is Ivy. Let me know how I can assist you.
You can figure out which voice you like or which voice your organization prefers. And in a few seconds, I have a blank bot. Now, the main thing that we use bots for in contact centers is to predict intents. Like, I'm really trying to predict, why is my customer calling in? So I'm trying to ask him upfront, hey, what are you calling for? Can you help me out with? And that is what we call as predictive analytics. We're trying to predict your intent. So I'm going to call this my flight status intent. So if the customer says anything related to flight status, it's going to invoke this intent. So when I said flight status here, now if I'm a customer, I can say flight status in a million ways. right? I can say, oh, give me my flight status, check my flight status. What is my flight status? Like it really depends on like the individual. So that is when the concept of utterances come into play within Lex bots, that how accurate you can get with your utterances, or the number of utterances you add to be able to accurately recognize what the customer needs. So here I'm going to say I want to check status. Some people can say check flight status. Someone's just going to say flight status, right? So there's going to be combination of these utterances. So the key thing when we build exports is you're definitely not going to get all the utterances at the first go, right? We go through a lot of rounds of testing and tuning. We throw massive data sets at these exports to figure out what are the utterances that are missing, like what are my customer utterances that I'm not recognizing. So we can come back and sort of create a feedback loop and pass it back to our bot. So this is more of like, a learning process, but for the intents and purposes of getting started, I'm going to get started with, okay, if any of these intents are spoken, I'm going to I'm going to be able to recognize that the customer is calling me in order to get a flight status. So I go ahead and I define my my utterances. Another very important thing with utterances is like you're also going to have like some dynamic entries in your utterances, right? Like someone can say check flight status for flight number 1234 or flight status 1234. But that flight number is always, of course, going to be a unique number based on the customer. So you need to have that capability to take an input from a customer as well. And that's when we start defining something known as slots. So I'm going to define a slot called flight number because I anticipate that my customer is going to provide me with a flight number as well. So I'm also going to ask them as a follow-up, like, hey, what is your flight number? As a prompt, like once I recognize the intent, my next question to them is going to be, what is your flight number? But I might not have to ask this question if they already give it to me in the first go. So here they can already tell me like flight status for, and this is where it's kind of being used as a variable, right? So here I can, in my utterance itself, I can use flight number. So you kill that back and forth that you're going to do with the customer, because some customers upfront might just give you the flight number. So you need to be able to fulfill both those scenarios. Or someone can also say like flight number status. So once you define like your variables within slots, right, just like I did here, right, the only flight slot I care about right now is flight number. And now I can go ahead and fill those into my utterances as well. And on fulfillment. So I think I want to go back to one of the bots that I built so you guys can see how we built this intent. So this is the one that we already built, similar to what we were getting to, get flight status. We started populating the utterances. Same thing with slots. We asked them, what is your flight number? We passed the flight number within our utterances. And then fulfillment, right? After your customer gives you, hey, I want to know the flight status of this particular flight, you got to give them a response back. Like Convo AI is a two-way conversation, right? So how would we respond to them? Now there's multiple ways to get response to the customer, but in this case, I want you all to see, since this is a proof of concept, we're going to hard code something and say, okay, the status of the flight number that you gave is on time. But here I could hook up a code function and go like actually, tap into a database that shows me all the flight numbers. I could get that information and give it back to the customer, right? So that is when you can integrate a Lex bot with something else to get your information. But for this purposes, we're going to keep it simple and say status of your flight number that you gave us is on time. So now we can quickly, the good thing with the Lex is you can test your bots right here. So I'm going to say something like, one of my utterances, because I know what my utterances are. So I'm going to say flight status. I know the bot is going to pick it up. So they say, what's your flight number? it's a quick bot. You can do like fallback intents. Now, suppose if your customer says, I have only 3 intents. Now, there's always a scenario where the customer is going to say something different, and that's okay. Like, that's okay if the customer comes up with a different utterances and you don't have that. The concept that you need to bake in is like, how do you gracefully fail, right? How can you gracefully take that and maybe pass them to an agent because you're not able to pick up what they're trying to say, or like, any other error scenario that you define. So now we have a functioning bot giving us like the status of our flight. But how do we integrate this with something like Connect, where my agent is also involved in this particular flow? So I go back to this call flow that we were building. And if you remember, instead, we were at the place where we asked the customer on, hey, what can we help you with? Tell us in a few words what we can help you with, right? And this is where I can come to Lex and I can integrate that bot that I just built within Lex and say, okay, instead of going to a DTMF menu, I actually want to build this whole experience using a Lex bot. So I do save, and the rest of the flow, honestly, remains the same, right? For get flight status, if you see here, the last time I had get flight status pointing to sending them to a queue. But in this case, their intent, if they're truly calling to just get flight status, I'm giving them the flight status in the bot. So there's nothing else I need to do within my contact flow. So for get flight status, what I did is, right, I just took this branch and I pointed it to this play prompt. Thanks for calling us today. Just like a closing message. You already got what you needed from the bot, because I know I've built that in the bot. So that's your experience. Thanks for calling us today. Save, and I disconnect the call. If they say anything else other than get flight status, that's what's baked into this default box here. So I'm saying if they say anything else outside of get flight status, I'm going to move them to my previous flow, which was, transferring them to the basic queue so that they can go ahead and talk to an agent. So now I have 2 different branches in my call flow. If you say status, you're going to go to a Lex bot that's going to help you out. If you say anything else, you're going to be routed to a particular agent. So we're going to go ahead and save. You can save and publish your call flows. It's all versioned, so you can pretty easily go back and check your latest versions as well if you mess something up. We're going to go to our dashboard. The dashboard, like I showed you earlier, gives you the ability to test functionality. So now I'm going to go to this test chat feature. Now in my test settings, I can have like 1 million call flows that I'm going to test, right? So I need to call out that, okay, this is the call flow that I just built. So I'm going to go ahead and test that. So now this window pops up. And if you see, it gives me everything I had in my flow. So the first thing I had in my flow is welcome to the POC. What can I help you with? The second time I had a blog that says, in a few words, tell me how I can help you. You can say check flight status. So here I'm going to go ahead and say flight status. So if you remember, this is the flow we just built in Lex. When we say flight status, it's going to ask you what's your flight number. I'm going to go ahead and give a flight number. And then they're going to give me my status of my flight number is on time. Again, this is something we had hard-coded in Lex, but you see how Connect and Lex can work together to build like these chat platforms. And in this case, you don't even need to redirect a customer to an agent. This is truly a self-service platform, right? And that's what a lot of organizations are moving towards. There's like part of their functionality that, you don't need to send a customer to an agent. If you can handle it within the IVR, within chat itself, it's a much easier functionality to get the customers the answers that they need. So this demonstrates how you can build like an omni-channel presence where no matter whether you call or you chat, the experience doesn't change. You can use the same flow that you built and you can use it in like multiple different ways. With that, I think we've completed both our POCs. I think the message really is there's a lot you can do with these Convo AI systems. Like Lex is the same technology that powers Amazon Alexa today. So it's very, very powerful. Connect is the same technology when you call into AWS customer support today, they use Amazon Connect under the hood. So it's two great, very popular services to get started with. These were very super easy ways, but there's some solutions that I have been building in the back end that I think like, are pretty cool solutions. I didn't think I finished my word here. Yep. So the first one is I've seen, and I know a few people who are doing this, but I kind of wanted to see how it works out for myself, right? In the call center industry, staffing agents is a big problem, right? Sometimes you have customers globally all over the world, but maybe at a time you only have English speaking agents. And that really becomes a challenge when you're not staffing agents who speak multiple languages. So I was building something where once a customer is chatting with me, I can take their chat message in real time, pass it through something known as Amazon Translate, which it has the capability to translate your message from one language to another. And can I translate it to a language that the agent prefers? So you're almost like I'm typing in Spanish, but the agent on the other end is seeing the response in English because that's his or her predominant language. So I think that's a pretty cool use case that you can build, and it it covers another very cool service, Amazon Translate, that helps you do a lot of these translations real time. Another easy thing that I see a lot of people build is search engines using Kendra. So there are a lot of questions that agents get sometimes that you can just point to knowledge documents on your website, right? Like if someone's calling to an airline and they're like, okay, what is your baggage cancellation policy? Like that's a quick search on some airline's website to get you that. So you can also, in the agent dashboard, you can embed like a search engine using Kendra. So if the agent's getting these very FAQ type questions, they can just pull it, do like a quick search, being within Connect on the website, and get those answers to the customers. There's another AWS service called Pinpoint, in which you can send like SMSs to your customers as well. So if you want the customer, relay some important information to your customer or using an SMS, they call in, they do like a flight reservation, and they want they want the reservation details on their phone. You can use Pinpoint to send outbound messages from Connect as well. The point that I'm trying to make here is that there's so much functionality you can build just combining Connect and Lex, that there are so many POCs out there. These are some of the popular ones that I see people build, because it goes into different services like Translate and Kendra. But the possibilities are endless, and I'm happy if someone's interested in this space and building to educate more on what other passion projects can be built. But that's pretty much all that we had to cover for this session. And I know we're getting pretty close on time as well. So maybe we take a pause and cover any Q&As before we wrap up.
Thank you so much, Nausheen. This was a very interesting presentation. If you all have any question or answers, I am monitoring it, and you can ask me those. You can send the questions over, and I will let Nausheen know. I actually had a question regarding Amazon Connect itself. So could you talk a little bit about the monitoring side of things? What do you monitor, and how does Amazon bill you for using that service? Like what do they see? Like what do they bill you on?
That's a great question. So I think that's one of the features that I didn't cover within Amazon Connect. It's a pay-as-you-go pricing. So you kind of pay for the number of minutes your platform's using, and the combination of minutes and a combination of phone numbers. But and then of course, if you're using some of these external features, like if you use Lex, you're going to pay for your, Lex has going to have its own pricing model. If you integrate it with some other service, they're going to have its own pricing model. But Connect on itself is a pay-as-you-go pricing model. They do have a lot of monitoring built in. So that's a great question. So on the Connect console, you can go in and check at all times how many people are waiting in queue. So that way you can move your agents around, like, hey, this queue is becoming very popular. I don't have enough people staffed on it. Let me move them. You can also do like monitoring, like, hey, what's my average wait time? What's my how many minutes is every agent taking to solve customer problems? Right. So those are the kind of metrics even organizations are interested in, especially wait time, right? For a lot of organizations, the biggest one is how can we reduce wait time? So if you do your monitoring and you look like, okay, these are the queues that have the highest wait time, can I extract a subset of that functionality and put some self-service on it? So people who truly don't want to wait in the queue have a a different option. So there's a lot of monitoring baked into the system that you don't pay. It comes with the platform. So thankfully, you don't have to pay for those additional metrics.
Okay. And is there any kind of inbuilt escalation functions? Like if you as an agent are not able to answer it, is there like an inbuilt thing to transfer it to a different agent or move it up the pipeline?
Yep, same function. You can transfer it to another agent. There's even a manager barge in functionality where if the managers think the agents are not doing well or need help, they can come in and do like a three-way call. And I think the way you recognize that is a big thing with Connect is they do sentiment analysis, and I don't have that built out today. But in a few clicks, if you enable sentiment analysis, you can build a lot of rules. Like you can build rules if if my customer sentiment goes above a certain point, I need a manager to come in. Or if I don't see my, because a lot of organizations have compliance rules that they need agents to say certain words when they call in, like this is being recorded, it's being monitored. So, you have all that functionality that you can recognize, monitor, and if someone's not doing it, there's a manager who can come in and provide guidance. So all that functionality you see with any other contact center is supported inherently.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think that's a good question because we covered a very small part of it, but there's if you saw the dashboard, there's a lot of different options that you can configure. Any other questions you want to cover?
I don't see any questions in the Q&A section right now. So should we wrap this up?
Sounds good. And I see someone's training for Amazon Connect. All the best. There's a lot of fun training out there. So I hope it goes well for you.
Yep. So thanks a lot. It was pretty exciting learning about Amazon Connect and all the different components. And oh, I see there is a question actually. Let me just go to that. So Kyansha is asking, what kind of jobs can you get with learning Amazon Connect?
That's a good question, Kyansha. I would say it's a big focus on being a cloud engineer, right? As you saw, a lot of it is configurations, right? It's not like you're writing code to do all of it. You could also do all of it using automation. Like you could use Terraform on top of it. To everything that I built today could also be done using automation. But what the skill really you're taking is like being able to build on Amazon, like being a cloud engineer, but having hands-on experience, right? Because with a lot of people who are starting out, everyone has certifications, but showcasing that you can actually build within the console and integrate with a few services is something that typically falls in the cloud engineering job profile. Amazon Connect show up on any of the certification exams. It's not a certification on its own today, but it does. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the ambassador program. It shows up as an ambassador. So if you do certain trainings, you can get an Amazon Connect ambassador badge, and that's you're someone who's active in the space. But it's not an official certification because, as you can tell, it's just one service. It's not a domain on its own. Is this the kind of thing you could share on your resume as a project? 100%. I share it on my resume as a project all the time, which is why I wanted to share other things you can build on it. I'm happy to if you guys want to reach out to me, define like a project that you can actually build and showcase that, okay, you integrated Connect with 5 other AWS services. You did it with automation. And I think that really helps highlight your cloud engineering skills on a resume and helps you find those kind of cloud engineering job roles. I used it on my resume a lot, so yes. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. So Nausheen, thank you so much, especially for offering to mentor all the attendees. Feel free to reach out to Nausheen if you want to build the project. It really does help. I've added a lot of such cloud projects to my resume as well. And it's definitely a good idea to come up with the architecture itself as kind of like a poster as well as you explain the project. So yeah, if any of you want to see Nausheen's previous webinar, it is up on Women Who Codes. It is up on Women Who Codes YouTube channel. It's pretty amazing. She goes through every single one of the roles and she explains each role and she connects it to kind of like the components throughout cloud, throughout AWS, and how these particular roles would work in with those components. And she also did a small demo of how to use CloudFormation to create an S3 bucket. That is a wonderful first step because S3 is one of the most used Amazon components that we see out there. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this session. Thank you so much again, Nausheen, for coming here, for giving us your time and your expertise.
Of course. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, everyone. And I'll see you next on the Cloud meet and greet on May 12th. Remember to register for that event. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.